So tell me, Shivam, क्या चल रहा है? For anyone who is listening to this podcast and watching this, please, feel free to tell something about yourself. Who is Shivam? And ये Shivam now का क्या फंडा है? ये बताओ सबसे पहले.
Right. I think like you've given a very brief and a very detailed introduction from my side as well. Just to add a bit around it. So again, aerospace engineer, like you mentioned, right? So currently, I'm just on the last verge of finishing my PhD in aerospace engineering, and yes, I've turned into. I was an ex-assistant professor, project scientist, and now a full-time life coach and an author as well towards working on the aspects of emotional intelligence. And like you mentioned as well, that I'm pretty much driven towards science and logic and curiosity about why things happen in a particular way. So that's what drove me towards getting on the facts about understanding the emotions and dealing with those things in a better manner. And that's what the goal, I think, is from my side always, to help people understand their lives, their emotions, their thoughts better. Because from my experience, that's something that I feel is a game changer. Once you realize what's happening with you, why it is happening with you, you are able to manage those things in a much better manner. And obviously, when we talk about our brain, when we talk about our emotions, that is one of the things which feels like a magical place for every human being, that we don't even know exactly what exactly happens inside our body and inside our brain,
Right.
and we feel confused about it, kya ho raha hai, kaise ho raha hai, and we feel very doubtful about it as well. So yeah, so my goal is to help people understand. Again, in the process of it, I'm also understanding a lot about myself, so that's the added advantage around here. So yeah, that's what my goal towards it as well.
That's very interesting. I think, Shivam, I want you to dive deep into what drives you to first. I know that you take a lot of workshops. I know you take a lot of coaching programs, one-on-one, even group coaching. You go to a seminars. Organizations and institutions invites you to give speeches around emotional intelligence. So what drives you on day-to-day basis to keep going on? And I've been following your content actually for quite a while now, and I know you since a while, and I know you have been
Yes.
very, very consistent in your content. You've been very, very consistent in providing value on the internet through your social handles and everywhere, and through offline speeches as well. So I just really want to understand what drives you to do this every single day. Doesn't this get monotonous for you?
Mm-hmm. I think that's the most exciting part about it, that it's a very exciting journey for me. Like the whole fact about, like I mentioned, that I'm a very much driven by curiosity and the whole understanding of why things happen, and the whole aspect of understanding ourselves, our human emotions, behavior in a better manner. And everything that I do on a day-to-day basis in terms of posting content or just anything around it, it kind of keeps me going in terms of getting me closer to that vision for mine, as in, and getting to understand myself better and helping people understand themselves better.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the kind of course, it cannot be just a one-sided affair. It's a kind of a two-way road. That means that the kind of love, the kind of respect, the kind of energy that the people also kind of send across, that is a game changer as well. That means that the support really keeps me going as well. So people comment, people like, they share, and they keep that particular process moving forward as well. In terms of life coaching, of course, so that is another thing that I personally coach a lot of people on a day-to-day basis. So that is something that goes on a daily basis. So again, the more I coach people, the more I get to understand them, of course, and myself as well. In
Right.
terms of, okay, very often when I'm coaching someone, there's has to be a particular magical moment for my life as well. Okay, this was something I was suffering in my life, having trouble in my life, and now I'm kind of cracked the code. So even in terms of helping people, I'm also kind of getting to know myself better. So
Right.
that is one beautiful aspect of it. And yes, like you mentioned, the goal, the vision, and the value that is very often linked to what drives me forward is curiosity, and to help people understand themselves better, and of course helping myself understand better as well. And in fact, one thing that you asked about the Shivam Now thing as well, what exactly is that Shivam Now? So the funny thing is, I don't have a surname. So if I don't have a surname, the every email ID, everything that asks for is, they want a surname. I don't know why they want a surname from your side. And if they ask a surname, I don't have to, I have to do something around it, right? So I did something, I created that Now. And why Now specifically is because that Now resonates, that power of mindfulness, the power of being in the present moment. And that is what I try to resonate through my work as well, to help you understand the impact of mindfulness, the impact of how understanding your emotions can help you be in the moment.
Hmm.
How being in the moment can be a very transforming journey as well. Of course, I do not advocate the whole fact that you always have to be in the moment, because it's realistically impossible. But yeah, you have the potential, you have the ability, you have to understand the power of being in the now, in the moment, and that can really do really wonder. So that's what the whole inspiration towards putting up the Now surname That's what the whole value towards it started as well.
It's interesting now you have cleared this. So I this is for everyone, who have been following Shivam, and I'll, put down your handles into a description below, for any viewers or watchers to just
Sure.
refer to that. So Shivam has this handle called Shivam now, and this is what we have been speaking about. And this is for everyone who has been watching this. Now, don't go into Shivam's DM and ask what is your surname. I cannot find it over anywhere or across because Shivam doesn't have a surname. So ठीक है, आज मेरे को ये फंडा
Yeah,
पता चल
right.
गया है. So ये फंडा था. Okay, cool. So and it's
Right.
very interesting that you mentioned that living in the present becomes so valuable because most of our day to day life, right? It spends in either thinking about what happened in the past, or we are so much into planning about the future. We're always anticipating what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen in 6 months, what's going to happen in 1 year, so on and so forth. Or we are dwelling into things about the past that this could have been better, I could have done that thing
Yes.
better. So what is your suggestion or advice, I should ask, for young people to to anchor their mind into the present moment? And I know that you mentioned that realistically it's not possible to always live in the present, and I so agree with that because I've also tried that over the period of time. You, of course, you can be into the present moment, but at the same time, your mind by its nature is going to take you back and forth into the past and the future. It's like a perfect, seesaw between the past and future, right? And that's
Absolutely.
going to happen very naturally. So just want to understand, what does couple of things that people can do in order to keep their mind in the present moment?
Right, right. I think the first of all, the first and the most important thing that happens and people should understand is that they should not hate their past. Now, this is a very, very important thing to understand because the moment you start to hate your past, your brain perceives it as even more important thing to focus upon.
Mm.
Because again, from a very superficial level, talk about love, hate, happiness, sadness, anxiety, all the excitement, all the things about it.
Mm.
But for your brain, all those emotions have the same important advantage, have the same important benefit.
Mm.
That means when you say your brain that I hate my past, I just want to eradicate my past, I just want to get rid of my past, your brain doesn't understand what you're talking about.
Right.
Your brain just understands one thing, that you're talking about your past, and the brain comprehends it that it is important for you, that is why you're thinking about your past.
Mm-hmm.
So what does the brain do? It kind of makes it even more important for you, so you have even more difficulty trying to forget the past. Just think about this. The things that we don't care about on day-to-day basis, we often forget them as well.
Right.
So there's a particular thing that what you ate. Yes, let's say if I ask you at this particular point, what did you have for lunch 3 days back? I'm pretty sure you would have forgotten by now.
I don't remember.
Why so?
I don't even remember what I had in
Well,
the
exactly.
morning.
Right, exactly. That's how unimportant it is for our brain, because our emotions are not connected to it.
Mm-hmm.
The strong emotion that connects to it is not present here.
Right.
But the thing that about your past that I'm constantly clinging on to, that had a very strong emotion connect with me. Now, when I'm telling myself that I just want to get rid of this particular memory, I just want to eradicate the past component of it,
Right.
what I'm doing is actually superimposing that thought, superimposing that memory all over again, because my brain is perceiving it as even more important.
Right.
And now, the more I say I hate my past, the more I'm superimposing those things, and more difficult I'm making it for myself to ignore that past.
Mm-hmm.
So the first part, if you want to be mindful, to be aware of the present moment, don't hate your past. Come in terms with acceptance of the past.
Mm-hmm.
What happened, why it happened, and understanding those areas around it.
Yeah.
Another thing that we do have to really understand here is that when you ask about the very basic component of being in the moment or capturing the moment or just anything around it, we do have to understand that our past plays a very important role in how we're acting out in the present moment.
Yes.
Without the past, your brain would have no particular way to understand how to act out in this present moment. That means if I'm saying at this particular moment, at this particular point, that I like ice cream, what tells you that you like ice cream? Your past tells you that you like ice cream.
Right.
You have eaten ice cream before, you have tasted it before, you found it sweet, you find it nice, and now you're telling me that you like ice cream.
Right. Right. It's because you are more
It's
familiar
not
with
that
that.
it's exactly.
Mm.
Exactly, absolutely. So basically, your brain is constantly going back to the past to tell you how to think about in this present moment.
Right.
So look at the past as an anchor
Mm-hmm.
rather than feeling that it's kind of a limiting force for us.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more you are conscious around how the past is dictating your present moment, the more comfortable you would be in the present moment as well. So rather than trying to hate or just get rid of the past or the future around it, try to focus on how can I make the most out of it. That would make way for a really good way of enjoying the moment. The same thing about ice cream as well.
Right.
You're not, when you're eating the ice cream, you're not focusing on the fact that, okay, I ate this ice cream last time and this was how it tasted. You're not focusing on that. You're just focusing on how it is tasting right now. You're enjoying that moment.
Right. Right. And I know that, like,
That should be for all the other memories.
right. No,
Yes.
it's very interesting because the analogy that you mentioned about the ice cream. This reminds me of something that, when you're listening to a song, right? We don't listen to a song to reach to the end point of the music, right? We enjoy the lyrics, we enjoy the music, whatever the song and music that we like, right? Like, we don't listen to one song just with an intention that we want to reach at the end of the music as soon as possible, right? That doesn't happen to us. But it's interesting in some areas of our life where our minds are, work a very different opposite way, just like as you were explaining. Yeah, so that's very.
Absolutely. That's a very, very well point as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Exactly. We try to live the moment. We try to enjoy the music, and that's what makes it even more beautiful.
Right.
Because if we just focused on getting rid of the music or the song, it would not have been so enjoyable or beautiful for that matter.
Yes. Shivam, tell me, you come from an engineer background, right? How do you know all of these things? You mentioned about the experience, by speaking to the people, within your college or within your area and the people that you coach. And then, that's like a butterfly effect that, that comes back to you. But do you read about all of these things, or is it just purely coming through any experiences? I really curious to know this.
Of course, I do read a lot. I mean, I'm very avid reader regarding, especially the neuroscience aspects of it, behavioral science, emotional intelligence, all the components. I like to read a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, experience teaches a lot, but there are certain facts about the brain that you cannot just learn from experiences.
Yeah.
You have to understand and you have to comprehend those areas of it. So yes, I read a lot, so that definitely helps. I watch a lot of videos around it, so that helps as well. And of course, talking to people, gathering their experiences, gathering my own experiences, and those things also in addition to understand the behavior and the emotion component of it very well. And coming from an engineering background, like you mentioned as well, that I've always been driven towards, again, why things happen in a particular manner, and that curiosity basically drove me towards understanding our emotions,
Yeah.
behaviors, our body language, all the other things in a better manner. That's what I just drove into it and found it very intriguing and exciting. That's why I got completely submerged into it now.
Yes, I can clearly see because I've read both of your books and it's very interesting. In one of the chapters, you have mentioned why analysis. Tell us, the listeners, what does why analysis means? I think this is from your book, How to Unleash Your True Potential. And this is, I'm talking about chapter 3. I don't remember exactly. I read about that, but then I wanted to check, with you, like, what does that mean, why analysis, please?
Right. First of all, I'm really glad that you like the book. Secondly, when you talk about why analysis, again, the whole aspect of emotions or just anything that we try to work around, everything that we do comes with a cause. Like we mentioned about the past thing as well. That is, past is constantly driving our present moment. That means that my behavior today is being driven by something that is sitting inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
What is that sitting inside of me? My belief that I'm carrying with myself. That means if you try to break your behavior, if you try to break down your emotions to smaller components, you would finally reach the conclusion of a particular belief that you're carrying with yourself. And once you understand the belief that goes along with a particular behavior, it would be easier for you to channelize or challenge that particular thought and understand if it is helpful for you or not. So the whole goal is to understand and ask yourself the very simple question: why? That means I'm getting angry, I'm feeling angry right now. You're talking to me about certain particular thing and I'm feeling angry about it. Why am I feeling angry about it? Maybe because it triggered something in me. Why am I getting triggered by it?
Right.
Because something of the past tells me that I have got triggered in the past as well, and someone from the past has made fun of the same thing before. So now because of that I'm triggered by that. Why did I get triggered in the first place when something like that happened? Because let's say that maybe that particular thing was so continuously happening in my life that it became a routine for me. Something like my family or my friends or my school, something like that.
Yeah.
And now that had become a major proportion of my belief that always tend to make me feel that I'm worthless.
Right.
Now when I are making fun of me, I'm not focusing on why you're making fun of me. It could
Mm.
be just a fun banter for that matter.
Mhm.
But what am I listening? You're telling me that you're just making a fun banter. What am I listening? That I'm worthless.
Yeah.
And now that I understand that I feel that I'm worthless, I would obviously trigger, because that's something not, I would never want to feel that particular thing.
Mm.
So automatically I panic, I trigger, and then I shout at you, which is again not the right way to respond if I'm just talking about the present moment.
Yeah.
So that is the part we have to understand, that everything can be broken down into smaller components if we ask ourselves a very simple question, why, and to get to the depth of it. Of course, it's, for me to say at this particular point of time, it's kind of easy to just get to the core cause of this is where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Sometimes from a personal state, it becomes difficult to question and challenge yourself in that direction. That is where a bit of introspection, or sometimes seeking help from professional, mental health professional as well, would be a really good cause to understand your thoughts, your behaviors,
Yeah.
your beliefs in a better manner as well. So I think that thing can be really taken into consideration, because our life is a sum of experiences, and we keep on learning with time.
Yeah.
So the more you understand each other, the more we understand ourselves, it becomes even more easier and better for us to keep on growing with it.
Right. Like as you said, like, when you are stuck with a problem, you have to really go down the rabbit hole in order to understand where the problem is emerging
Exactly.
from in the first place, right? What is the source
Right.
of it? Like, you
Right.
have to really go,
Yes.
deep into the level of level 10 probably of that particular problem that you're struggling with. So keep asking why, keep asking why. And I think that's a very
Yes. Yes.
interesting thing. And I think I've also read something very similar, in Simon Sinek's book, Start with Why. Like, once your why is clear, I mean, that analogy is very
Yes.
different, but he also
Yes. Yes.
speaks about the same thing, that, if you would have to come to a conclusion that, hey, this is one thing that I would want to do, first make sure that, what is your why, right? You have to be very, very clear on your why. And then,
Yes.
once your
Yes.
why is
Yes.
clear, you can bear anyhow. I think some philosopher said
Absolutely.
that.
Why is a very powerful. It's a very powerful word. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me, Shivam, anything about yourself apart from, your book. And before we touch upon, I wanted to touch upon, you've written your first book, How to Unleash Your True Potential. What got you to write the second book, which was Finding the Magic in You?
Okay. So the first book was mostly that, as the name suggests as well, it's how to unleash your true potential. That means driving yourself and understanding yourself, to challenge yourself, and then grow into a better version of yourself. And the second book, Finding the Magic in You, is more towards self-acceptance, self-love. That means how can you be at terms of understanding yourself better, accepting yourself better, and to get to a point where you take charge of what you're feeling, rather than trying to challenge that part, rather than completely of challenging and growing into a better person. First, taking your own time to accept that part as well, accepting who you really are, building that component of self-love as well.
Right.
So that is what the second book is more driven towards. Why did it happen? Because I felt that, again, both components are very important. Unless and until you're accepting of yourself, it would be really hard for you to challenge yourself.
Yeah.
And that is why I wanted to write the second book about accepting yourself as well. That's the second component of it.
Right. Right. And I think your second book also got really popular, right? It has been doing pretty well. So tell me, for the viewers or the listeners who are listening to this podcast, do you have a new book in the process of writing already? Are you planning to write a new book?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I am. I'm not getting time to do so, but yeah, I will certainly do so. I have something written in my head, but
Okay.
yeah, it has to be just
Okay. Okay.
printed it down onto a piece of paper now.
Interesting. Let's talk a little bit about emotions, right? You take emotional intelligence coaching, and you work with people one on one. What are some of the problems? Any one or two problems, if you could point out to, which most people would come across when they take coaching from you one on one. Is it related to their life? Is it related to their relationships? Is it related to their work or career? What are, like, some of the problems, if you can shed a light on that?
Right. Certainly. I think the very basic thing that happens to be driven about is our own personal life and how we see our emotions, because somehow it gets reflected and deflected into our relationships, into our career, into our personal emotional state as well. So it starts from a particular point, obviously it reaches to other parts of the life as well. Of course, there are certain people, corporates for that matter, managers and founders, for them the whole aspect is towards understanding themselves better, making the use of emotions to do better at the career. For majority people, it is more about relationships, personal relationships, and other parts of their life as well, professional life as well. And when you talk about emotions, what are the problems people often deal with? It's primarily dependent on the fact about incapability to understand their emotions and what exactly they are trying to tell them.
Go deep on that.
Because what really happens is that when you
Go deep on that.
right, exactly. Because when you, because when you say about the whole aspect of emotions and what is it trying to tell you, what am I feeling right now? If I'm feeling anxious right now, sometimes it becomes such a difficult situation or difficult moment to be sitting with that anxiety or anger, just any emotion for that matter. We try to run away from it. We find a way to build an escape for ourselves, and it's not something that I'm doing it right now and I built it as an adult way to get away or rid of the emotions. It's something we built right from the scratch. It's something we built right from our childhood. It's something, again, a part of our conditioning, a part of what we've seen in our families, and so many things that combines our whole aspect of building our personality as well. And that becomes our coping mechanism. So we somehow figure out that if I run away from my emotions, I would not feel hurt. So it kind of feels like a win-win situation for us. But somehow we cannot forever run from our emotions.
Right.
So the emotions keep on piling up. And when they start to pile up, they come out in really, really strong forms. And when they come out in strong forms, they become so impulsive, they become so dominant that you cannot make sense of what exactly you're feeling. So it has a pinch of jealousy, it has a pinch of anger, it has a pinch of sadness, it has a pinch of anxiety. All the things are combined up together. The khichdi thing that you say.
Khichdi of the emotions.
And then you're not able to pinpoint. Yeah, exactly. And then you're not able to pinpoint what exactly am I feeling. It becomes difficult for any person to understand what exactly I'm feeling. And once you are impulsively reacting based on that emotional state, you are confused. What am I feeling? What exactly is happening to me? And that is where the problem begins.
Right.
So the what we generally try to work upon in our coaching sessions to help people understand, and the role of understanding their emotions. So if I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling angry. There's no need for me to tell myself that I should not be feeling angry. There's no need for me to feel and say myself that I should not be feeling anxious.
Okay, I want to stop you here and ask you a follow-up question, Shivam. So anger has always been looked down upon as an emotion in our society, and I think across human species, I think anger is like one emotion where it has been looked down upon. बोलते हैं ना हमारी सोसाइटी में कि यार आप गुस्सा दिखा रहे हो, गुस्सा नहीं करना चाहिए, राइट? दैट पर्टिकुलर नोशन ऑफ गुस्सा नहीं करना चाहिए. So a kid growing up listening to this phrase always throughout his or her life, gussa nahi karna chahiye, how that person can finally accept that gussa karna is not that bad at all. Maybe for the other it can be, right? But for himself, herself, it's not a bad thing. It's actually feeling that emotion, right? And actually expressing that emotion, because sometimes the anger, and I don't know, this is something that I've also felt in my life, when your sadness is repressed, right? When you're feeling sad, it translates into anger going forward, because at a right place, at a right time, your sadness hasn't been expressed. And why it hasn't been expressed? Because I think vulnerability as an emotion, and I want you to talk about vulnerability more, because I think you are expert on that. But here is my 2 cents on vulnerability, because when it comes to emotions, I think expressing sadness, anger is just an outcome of what we are feeling at that moment, right?
Absolutely.
And this whole notion of gussa nahi karna chahiye, it actually represses the emotions deep within us. So how to tackle that? That's something I would.
Right. Very rightly said. The whole aspect. Yeah. Very rightly said. The whole aspect of we suppressing our sadness or grief that leads to boiling up our anger.
Yeah.
And very often the sadness or the anger we talk about as well is a secondary emotion. It kind of gets driven because of the whole aspect of suppressing your sadness or grief for that matter. In fact, it reminds me of a very funny quote as well, that anger management techniques work wonders unless and until you're angry.
Yeah.
So we can talk about all the things that, okay,
interesting.
This is the best anger management technique I have listened to. But when you're angry, those techniques don't work.
Yeah.
Right? So the goal is to understand that when you're angry, you're angry. In fact, I'll give you a very funny analogy as well. that our brain always tries to protect ourselves from an attack. That's our human basis of evolution, the whole survival instinct that comes into picture.
Right.
So we have become the most dominant species on the planet because of this very simple aspect, survival of the fittest. And we are here because of it.
Right.
That means the moment I see or perceive an attack coming into picture, that I perceive someone attacking me.
Right.
Now that attack could be a real attack, or that attack could be a personal attack.
A psychological
What
attack,
will
maybe?
your brain want you to do? Absolutely, absolutely. What will your brain want you to do? It will want you to protect yourself, defend yourself.
Right.
How do you defend yourself? Through anger, because there is no other better way than anger to protect yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So we shout. We kind of become expressive. Our pitches go high.
Yeah.
Because now I'm trying to protect myself. I'm trying to shield myself from there. Now in that particular state, when these things are happening, it's really unfair for us to say that don't be angry, because my brain is kind of perceiving a threat.
गुस्सा मत
How can
करो.
I tell myself don't be angry?
गुस्सा मत करो.
Right, exactly. गुस्सा मत करो. This is not realistically possible, because कुछ ना कुछ होगा, कुछ ना कुछ लोग कहेंगे जिससे मुझे गुस्सा आएगा, and I would feel angry around it. तो दो चीज़ें यहाँ पर, two things that come into picture. First thing कि हमें दिमाग को बता पाना कि जिस चीज़ को हम थ्रेट परसीव कर रहे हैं वो एक्चुअल में थ्रेट है क्या. एंड सेकेंड थिंग, अगर मुझे गुस्सा आ रहा है तो व्हाट आर माय हेल्दी वेज टू एक्सप्रेस आउट दैट एंगर.
Okay, I want you to break down this even
बिकॉज
further.
हर यस एब्सोल्युटली. पहला चीज जो हम बात कर रहे हैं, पहली चीज जो बात कर रहे हैं हम, दैट वाज अबाउट कि जिस थ्रेट को हम परसीव कर रहे हैं, लाइक अगेन द अटैक थिंग, अगर मुझे आई एम फीलिंग एंड परसीविंग एन अटैक, रियल अटैक ऑन टू मी, आई वुड नॉट बी टॉकिंग टू दैट पर्टिकुलर एनिमल इन अ वेरी काम, इन अ वेरी मंक लाइक टोन कि प्लीज लेट मी गो, प्लीज लेट मी गो, और प्लीज लीव मी अलोन. The animal would drag me, and for me to protect myself from that animal, I'll have to be angry and aggressive.
Right.
Right. So same thing. अगर कोई personal attack हो रहा है मेरे ऊपर, I would not want to just relax and calm down and say them कि please छोड़ दो मुझे, please अच्छे से बात करो मुझसे. I will feel angry. I will be aggressive around it.
Right.
तो पहला चीज़ ये दिमाग को समझा पाना कि is that a real attack onto me or not? That means जो personal attack मुझ पे आ रहा है, जो psychological attack मुझ पे आ रहा है, क्या मेरे पास वो ability है खुद को defend करने का, या वो सिर्फ एंगर है.
Right.
दैट मीन्स अगर सिम सी बात, अगर आपके सामने कोई शेर आ जाता है वर्सेस आपके सामने एक चूहा आ जाता है, आपके पास शील्ड है प्रोटेक्शन का कि आप खुद को बचा सकते हो इन टर्म्स ऑफ अ चूहा, बट नॉट इन टर्म्स ऑफ अ लायन. बट वही बात है कि अगर आपको लग रहा है कि मैं कंफर्टेबल नहीं हूँ, जैसे समवन इज kind of blaming you, judging you, kind of gossiping about you, आपको लगा personal attack, you felt a personal attack, and then what does your brain perceive कि ये तो मेरे against जा रहा है, ये तो मेरे loss कर रहा है कुछ ना कुछ.
Then you start to protect yourself.
But is that really loss? Yes, exactly. तो हमें समझाना है पहले तो खुद को कि is that such a loss, मतलब reality में वो loss है या नहीं है. Because अगर वो सच में loss नहीं है फिर तो हम safe है anyway. उसके कुछ बोलने से मेरा कुछ life में changes नहीं आ रहे.
Right. Does this come from awareness, Shivam?
That is one thing.
Like to understand whether.
Absolutely. I think it comes with awareness and practice.
Okay.
It comes with awareness and practice, because क्या होता है ना कि जब हम बात करते हैं खुद को उस स्टेट पे लाने की, जब हम बता पाए एग्जैक्टली कि वो असली डेंजर है या नकली डेंजर है, वो सच में डेंजर, वो अटैक आ रहा है मेरे ऊपर या नहीं आ रहा है, दैट कम्स व्हेन यू स्टार्ट बीइंग अवेयर ऑफ व्हाट यू फीलिंग एंड स्पेंडिंग सम टाइम विद इट. बिकॉज इमोशंस बाय इटसेल्फ हैज अ टेंडेंसी टू बी impatient in its behavior. That means ऐसा नहीं हो सकता कि आप शेर को सामने देखो and आप 5 मिनट वहाँ आराम करो फिर वहाँ से भागो.
I mean that would be a very stupid act though.
Look at the lion. Exactly, that's the point about it. That's why emotions are destined and made purposely to be reactive.
Right.
Emotions are reactive because reactive होना जरूरी है. Reactive नहीं होगा तो मेरी जान चली जाएगी.
Right. Right.
The whole base against survival instinct will be gone in a second.
Right.
तो हमारा दिमाग क्या कहता है कि रिएक्ट करना जरूरी है. बट अगर जो दिमाग हम बात करते हैं किसी चीज के अराउंड बात करते हैं, तो वट एवर इज हैपनिंग, वट एवर इज गोइंग अराउंड इन अ पर्टिकुलर मोमेंट, हमें उस चीज को समझना जरूरी है कि इफ आई एम एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज हैपनिंग एंड व्हाट इज नॉट हैपनिंग इन अ पर्टिकुलर स्टेट, आई कैन डील विद दैट पर्टिकुलर थिंग. दैट मीन्स वो सेफ स्टेट है मेरे लिए रहने के लिए. आई कैन स्टिल मैनेज दैट पर्टिकुलर फैक्टर, एंड इफ आई कैन मैनेज दैट पर्टिकुलर फैक्टर, आई वुड स्टिल बी हैप्पी अराउंड इट. Right, I can still manage and deal with in a particular factor. So that's a very basic essence of it. तो पहली बात तो प्रैक्टिस, खुद को समझा पाना कि आई एम एट अ वेरी कंफर्टेबल स्टेट ऑफ माइंड एंड आई एम फाइन एंड ओके विथ इट. दैट्स द फर्स्ट पार्ट अराउंड इट. सेकंड चीज जो मैंने बात करी अबाउट इमोशंस, एंगर वाले टर्म्स पे, कि व्हाट आर द हेल्दी अल्टरनेटिव्स टू रिलीज दिस एंगर.
Yes, I think that's very important. How to actually handle it.
Because क्या होता है कि या सो बेसिकली काफ़ी बार क्या होता है कि व्हेन यू आर एंग्री बाय आवरसेल्व्स, सबसे बेसिक एसेंस क्या होता है इस एंगर का? आवर बॉडी लैंग्वेज ओपन्स
Yeah.
अप, we try to be kind of we try to shout it out, we try to throw things
Yes.
around and do certain things जिससे वो एंगर और एग्रीवेट हो रहा होता है.
Hmm.
सो हमें समझना इस चीज़ को बहुत ही बेसिक एसेंस चीज़ है कि इफ़ आई एम एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड कि व्हाट आर द अदर वेज थ्रू विच आई कैन एक्चुअली रिलीज एंड वेंट आउट दिस एंगर विदाउट कॉजिंग एनी डैमेज टू मी और द पर्सन अराउंड, बिकॉज एक्चुअली अगर वो शेयर होता मेरे सामने तो वो डैमेज करने की जरूरत फिर भी होती.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right, but abhi the person is my partner, let's say, and I although at that moment I want to hurt
Right.
that partner, but ideally I don't want to hurt my partner.
Exactly. Like if you really stop and
But in that moment,
yeah, if you really stop and think to yourself whether whatever that comes out of my mouth as of now is going to hurt my partner or is it not going to hurt my partner, you would rather stop talking at that very moment, right? Because you would be feeling that kind of energy, right? So I don't know if
Uh,
that makes sense. So
no, absolutely it does make sense. Of course it does make sense, and that's a very important part as well. बस वो खुद को समझा पाना is the tricky
Right.
part उस point पे. So that's what कि हम जब गुस्सा फील कर रहे हैं, so rather than releasing it through your mouth or throwing things around, try to do certain things with body language. काफी बार just doing a small stretch or drinking a glass of water or just kind of open playing with your body language as well. काफी बार when we are angry we tend to close like fist like this.
yeah.
It's again a protection mechanism. खुद
Right.
को fight करने के लिए ready रखते हैं.
Right.
The moment I open this up, I'm kind of sending a signal back to my brain that I'm actually safe. I'm comfortable. I don't want to fight this person. Why are you pushing me to do so?
Right.
So this is kind of some subconscious ways we can deal and play with our mind as well as body
Right.
to release and vent out anger in a better manner.
Interesting.
काफी बार जैसे go to the gym, go for a walk, go for a run, or just I mean any sort of thing like play boxing, do boxing, something like that. Do something around it ताकि आपको वो emotion, वो anger निकले. Of course, it's again very important to talk about that anger as well with the respective person.
Correct.
Because हमारा गोल भागना नहीं उसे, because anger आया ही because of certain thing, some kind of differences, some sort of attack that you felt. अगर आप वहाँ से आपने रिलीज कर लिया उस इमोशन को in a better manner, let's say, but वो problem is still the problem.
Yeah.
And अगली बार वो problem फिर से उठ के आने वाला,
Right.
unless until you talk about
Correct.
it. So when you're at a comfortable state of mind, जब आपका गुस्सा थोड़ा उतर गया, talk about it.
Right. Like
Don't talk about it when you're still angry.
yeah. I mean once once the waves have calmed down, only then talk about it, right? Not once
Exactly.
things are wavy, things are shaky. Though that exactly may not be a
Yes.
right time to talk about it, because you would
Absolutely.
also be into a moment of anger. The person is probably who is listening to you may or may not be in the moment of anger. So you'd have to ensure and make sure that whenever you are speaking to the person that you would want to communicate a certain message to, you'd have to be in a state of calm rather than in a state of anger.
Absolutely.
Got it. So how can we make emotions our best friends, and some of the techniques that you would suggest in order to make these emotions make us aware about these emotions and help us understand them better.
Right. I think the very basic essence of it is awareness. When you understand that those emotions are actually there for a purpose, that means वो गुस्सा भी आपको प्रोटेक्ट करने की कोशिश कर रहा है. वो गुस्सा बस आपको डैमेज करने की कोशिश नहीं कर रहा है. That okay, I just want to ruin your life. It is wanting to protect you.
Yeah.
Of course, because you're not understanding of it, your actions are ruining your life, not the emotion itself. Right? So first thing, let's understand what exactly the emotion is trying to tell me, and that can only happen when I sit with it, when I'm comfortable sitting with it. Of course, it has become even more difficult in the current era because आज का जो environment है, the current society we are living in, we are so much filled with things that can जिससे हम attention को divert कर सकते हैं, अपने mind को divert कर सकते हैं. It's so easy to divert your mind, so easy to run away from emotion.
Right.
आपके पास आप you're feeling angry, anxious, whatever you're feeling, you can just watch your Instagram reel all day long and you can feel okay, numb around
Correct.
it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when you're at your bed, sleeping and trying to sleep, that is when the thoughts come over again. You start to overthink, you're not able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Because emotions को तो चाहिए, उसको they will find a way to come back to you and to figure out कि हो क्या रहा है exactly.
Right.
तो हमें उसको डायरेक्शन देना जरूरी है कि लेट्स ट्राई टू फिगर आउट कि कुछ देर का समय अपने पर निकाला जाए. दैट मीन्स I should be spending at least let's say half an hour or hour to walk, to play a particular sports for in the gym, or doing an activity जहाँ हम खुद के साथ बैठ के spend some time with myself
Yeah.
basically. So that would give me for to understand, communicate, discuss, feel those emotions rather than always trying to run away from those areas.
Right.
Journaling is again one of the best good activities
Right.
to deal with those emotional state as
Yeah.
well. So again, those are some activities that can really help to understand and be aware of the emotions that come through.
Yeah, I think for those who are listening to this podcast, I want to emphasize on the importance of journaling, and that has really helped me, in my life as well. So journaling is basically about, you are basically writing everything about your day in the evening before you go back to a bed, before you go to sleep, and in the morning you are writing everything that is coming to your mind first. Whatever that you're feeling, just write it down.
Hmm.
Be very open and vulnerable to put down any thoughts or emotions that you're having at that very moment. Even though, let's say, you wake up in morning and you're not feeling happy, you're not feeling very excited about the day, just write it
Hmm.
down that you're
Hmm.
not feeling very excited about the day. Having that awareness
Hmm.
makes it more easy for you to process that emotion in that very moment, and helps you get through the day. So
Absolutely.
it's very interesting, because I've done that too, where in the morning I woke up one day and I wasn't feeling very
Hmm.
excited and very happy or ecstatic about my day, that hey, आज तो भाई फोड़ देगा पूरा दिन ठीक है कि
Right.
आज तो
Yeah.
मतलब गदर मच जाएगी पूरे दिन में. And I
Right.
was like,
Hmm.
yeah, I have two options. One is that I will just go back to, do nothing in my day, or I would just write it down, whatever that I'm feeling, and pen it down basically, right, in my journal. Whatever that I'm feeling, whether I'm feeling an overwhelming emotion, just write it down. Whatever the thoughts that are coming to my mind,
Yes.
just write it down. And it really helped me that morning to, start my day on a better note. So I think that's one of the thing. And journaling, as Shivam said, that it's one of the most important technique for self-awareness. I think, yeah, I think that's so.
Yes.
Journaling is one, you know and what else?
Yeah, absolutely. Journey, like you mentioned, is very rightly said as well. That it has a very powerful way. Like I mentioned again, going for a
Hmm.
walk, going to the gym, doing something for yourself every day, yoga, meditation, so many other things that can be combined together. So basically, it's more about sitting with
Right.
yourself. That's the core essence of it.
Yeah, yeah. I want to talk a bit about relationships, Shivam. You also talk a lot about
Mhm.
relationships, on your content on social media and on your YouTube videos as well. I want to know how one can manage conflicts in their relationship, because conflict management in relationship is such an important thing, right? Because two people can come from two different backgrounds, right? And in order
Absolutely.
to make a relationship work, you would have to have that skill of conflict management. So how can really manage conflicts in the relationship?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think and I think we're really bad at conflicts as well. We Indians kind of have the habit of taking things too
Hmm.
personally, which kind of goes against the whole idea of conflict
Yeah.
management. Now, coming back to the part about how to actually manage conflicts, so this is where the things really matter because, like you mentioned as well, very rightly said, कि relationship में two different people from two different parts, and if there are two different
Hmm.
genders, there are going to be a lot of differences.
Yeah.
बहुत सारे डिफरेंसेस होंगे, बहुत सारे चीज़ें होंगी, बहुत सारे ट्रिगर्स होंगे दैट यू नॉट बी नोइंग अबाउट योर
Right.
पार्टनर. And starting में everything is good and fine that you are getting with excitement and butterfly and all the exciting stages or honeymoon stage of the
Yeah.
relationship. You're happy and you're very excited about
Hmm.
everything. जो नया आ रहा है मज़ा आ रहा है. Eventually when you get comfortable
Hmm.
with it and the emotions part, the hormonal, the emotional part of it tends to get normal, tends to get sublimed. उस point पे we start to see the differences
Right.
in. And then the problem with the differences is that our brain sees difference as danger, as a threat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Go deep.
क्यों?
Go deep on
Because
that again.
हम tries.
Go deep on that. Why our
Yeah, right.
brain
Yeah, so
look differences at danger?
right, right. Because we have evolved to live in a
Hmm.
tribe, and those tribes are there to protect
Hmm.
us. So let's say that you're a hunter and you're in a particular
Yeah.
tribe, and then you're just wandering around the jungle to find
Hmm.
food. Suddenly you find another tribe.
Right.
आपको एक नया ट्राइब
Hmm.
मिलता है. In that particular moment, how and what can you possibly understand to
Hmm.
know if the tribe is not going to kill
Hmm.
you and maybe eat you as well, right? So उस point पे what can possibly tell you? आपको कुछ नहीं पता उस point पे. You have to be alert, you have to be conscious, and you have to be defensive and aggressive as well.
Right.
Because आपको अटैक कभी भी किसी मोमेंट अटैक हो सकता है, आपको बचना पड़ेगा. So what does my brain tell? कि कुछ भी अगर डिफरेंट दिखता है, just open up your shield. You have to fight. And जब भी हमें कुछ नया कॉन्फ्लिक्टिंग दिखता है, कुछ डिफरेंट दिखता है, brain tells you, yeah, it's a time. It's high time you have to open up your shield and try protecting yourself and try fighting against it. Although it could be a good change. मुझे पता चला कि मुझे कैसे ऐसा ट्राई मिल गया जो कि मुझे और हेल्प करे खाना ढूंढने में. I don't know that yet.
Yeah.
बट पहला काम तो सर्वाइवल है. सर्वाइवल का सबसे बेसिक एसेंस है कि आपको प्रोटेक्ट करना पड़ेगा खुद को. एंड दैट इज व्हाट वी ट्राई टू डू इन द रिलेशनशिप.
ये एक्चुअली बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग बात है शिवम जो आप बोल रहे हो अभी, बिकॉज मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल व्हेन दे एंटर इनटू अ रिलेशनशिप दे ऑलवेज वांट अ कुशनी स्टफ, राइट? एंड interesting thing is they want cushiony stuff throughout the relationship, right? And you and I know, being at the age that we are, I don't want to give too much credit to our age or our maturity because of that, but let's just say that to the age we are, we know how relationships are, and it takes a lot to work on a relationship. And I know you also speak about this.
Absolutely.
I think I don't exactly remember that quote that you mentioned somewhere on social media, but I think I would probably rephrasing this. I think you mentioned something that relationship में आपको काम कर.
The true test of a relationship is in boring times.
Yeah. I think that's one. I'll come back to that. I think one thing that you mentioned about relationship that real relationship requires work over. There's nothing called love at first sight. You'd have to work on your relationships.
Yes.
So tell listeners about why it's not always cushiony, why you'd have to work over the period of time on your relationships.
Right. I think जो हम बात करते हैं ना about all the cushiony things or the exciting moments and all the amazing thing that happens in relationship, of course those are important as well, because उसके बिना हमें drive नहीं मिलेगा relationship में आने का. So those are important points definitely. लेकिन it's unrealistic for our brain to think कि वो हमेशा stay करे. It makes us feel addicted. It makes us feel happy around it, because of course, I mean, why wouldn't we feel happy and addicted to something that is so giving me that level of excitement and happiness, that dopamine kick? So dimag sees it as dopamine kick and then wants to have that forever, although it's not realistically possible. So there comes the inner conflict as well. I wanted somehow that particular thing, the same thing to go on ever and again, but somehow it cannot always be like that. But उस point में we think that's also important factor कि we have to get to a point जहाँ पे हम उस चीज़ में comfortable हो सके.
Right.
The fact about being in that stage जहाँ पे we're not having all the cushiony stuff happening, but being okay with the ordinary and the boring times.
Right. And that's a scary thought, by the way. That's a very scary thought for people in a relationship to get boring. Like if I interact with a couple of people, my friends who are in a relationship, and I had a friend who just moved out of a 2.5 year long relationship just because the relationship got boring over the period of time. He was not getting that kick in that relationship over the period of time. And I was like, is that the only reason why you broke up? Is that the only reason कि तू निकल गया relationship से, कि just because it was boring? And I was like, yes, I wanted the kick throughout. And I was very surprised about when he said, मैंने बोला यार ये तो बहुत weird है, because you cannot always get a kick from the relationship, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, please go on. Like you're talking about.
Yeah. Absolutely, we see those things, so many things happening around us, and I think that's very prominent for guys as well. The whole aspect of जिस society में जहाँ जिस conditioning में रह रहे, the whole act about chase that happens, and you must be very familiar with that part as well. कि people like to chase, and they get that excitement, that happiness कि once I'm chasing and all the thing that is driven towards it. तो हमें वो chase हमेशा चाहिए कि वो chase मिलता आ रहा है, which is very addictive and very unhealthy as well, because that is never the true self. And obviously you can never keep on chasing throughout your life. You will want to rest sometime. And वही होता है जब हम एक एक्सट्रीम पे काम कर रहे हैं, तो ऑटोमेटिकली द अदर एक्सट्रीम पार्ट्स आल्सो कम आउट व्हेन आई एम फाइनली रिलैक्सिंग. सो सिंपल सी बात है, अगर आप अपनी एनर्जी को इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हो, लेट्स इन चेजिंग, इन जस्ट डूइंग ऑल द कुशनी स्टफ, इन ऑल ट्राइंग टू डिवोट ऑल योर एनर्जी इनटू इट, कुछ समय बाद आप टायर डाउन हो जाओगे और सिर्फ रिलैक्स करना चाहोगे. व्हाट विल रिलैक्सिंग बी? आई जस्ट ब्रेक अप, हो गया बहुत मेरा, मैंने जितना एनर्जी लगा लगा दिया, अब हो गया मेरा, अब मुझे कुछ नहीं मिल रहा है यहाँ से मज़ा, तो आई जस्ट ब्रेक अप फ्रॉम दिस पर्टिकुलर रिलेशनशिप. नॉट अ हेल्दी वे टू गो अराउंड, बिकॉज देन वी एम जस्ट रनिंग इन ब्लैक्स एंड व्हाइट्स. एंड अनदर थिंग जो बोरिंग वाली आपने बात करी कि बोर्डम इज अ वेरी स्केरी थॉट. वाई सो? Because we somehow tend to connect tend to attach our worth to that particular boredom. So if my partner is feeling bored with me, what would I feel? That she's feeling bored of me because I am not a worthy person, I'm not an exciting person to be with. Maybe it's not because of me, maybe because situation that is boring, and we can do certain things in the situation to make it exciting. It's not always about us. That's a very basic essence of life as well, right? हर कुछ हमारे बारे में नहीं होता है, स्पेशली व्हेन कम्स टू डिफरेंट पर्सन, वो ज़्यादा उनके बारे में होता है कंपेयर टू मोर अबाउट आवरसेल्व्स. एवरीवन इज लिविंग देयर ओन स्टोरी इन देयर ओन लाइव्स, एंड दैट्स द फनी थिंग अबाउट इट. हम जितना सोचते हैं लोगों के जजमेंट के बारे में, चीज़ों के बारे में, नो वन केयर्स अबाउट एनीवन.
हम अपने दिमाग में,
एवरीवन केयर्स अबाउट
अपने दिमाग में अपने हीरो हैं, राइट? सो there's this saying you are the hero of your own story.
Absolutely.
And then somebody else is the villain in your own story. So you play that hero villain always in your mind.
Exactly. तो उसका जो स्पेक्ट्रम है वो है ही नहीं, एग्जिस्ट नहीं कर रहा है. हम जितना सोचते हैं ना कि मेरे वर्थ के कारण ऐसा हो रहा है, इट्स हार्डली बिकॉज ऑफ दैट. It's because of situation, it's because of maybe, of course, things can get boring, it's natural part of it, right? हम काफ़ी बार ऑर्डिनरी चीज़ों को बहुत बोरिंग और बहुत अनवर्दी कहते थे. ये तो बेकार सी चीज़ें, ये तो फालतू सी चीज़ें, ये तो मुझे नहीं करना है. The very basic essence that I want to clean the dishes, I want to do the dishes. Why would not I want to do the dishes? Because मेरे दिमाग में पहले ही इमेज आ गया, if I'm doing the dishes, I'm an unworthy person, I'm just wasting my time. Why would I want to do the dishes?
Right. Yeah.
But if I get comfortable with the fact that this is a basic essence and basic part of a human life, करना पड़ता है at times. So it doesn't make me कि I am unworthy as well if I am doing this task.
Yeah.
So we tend to attach our worth to the things and the materials that we act around it. कि अगर मुझे वो टास्क अनवर्दी लग रहा है, तो I say that I am also unworthy because of doing the task. So if I'm getting bored in a relationship, maybe because I'm unworthy, that's why I'm getting bored in a relationship.
And self-doubt stems from that.
So exactly, absolutely. The belief, the self-doubt, all the behaviors, all the emotions stem from that particular belief.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting, about something that you have already mentioned about, having a self-awareness and befriending your emotions. Those are the two things. And I think one of the things, and I think we spoke this, of this conversation a lot of times, that one of the things that really helped me was, mindfulness meditation. So I've been doing meditation since last 5 years, and it has immensely helped me understanding my own emotions better, what I want, what I don't want, what I'm more comfortable with, what I'm not comfortable with, and how and in what situations. Of course, as a human being, I do make errors, I do fault on few things. But I think that intensity of reacting to certain situations, I think that gets reduced significantly over the period of time once you become more self-aware about yourself and your emotions and your thought processes. And I think through your books, I think you have beautifully touched that. And even through your content, I keep following your content on social media, and you speak a lot about relationships, and you speak a lot about, being self-aware. I think the important tenet of your work, majorly, which I have observed, is helping people to think, right? Which most of the people are more about preaching, right? You bring your content to the point where you propel and you push people to think about themselves, right? Like, your content is not more like do this, don't do this, do that, don't do that. Your content is more about, like, I read a lot of your content pieces, and I think I've watched a couple of your YouTube videos too. Your content mostly speaks about, and it reflects in your books as well, like how the way that you've written your books, that it let people think. I think that's, and ये science background से है. Just what?
Absolutely.
सोच लो भैया कुछ लाइफ में.
Right, 100% from that. the whole aspect of science is about curiosity. I mean, if you just look at I mean, the engineer in me is always kind of questioning things. If I'm sitting on a particular chair, I'm constantly guessing and understanding the mathematics behind it. कितना force लग रहा है उसके ऊपर, किस angle में मुझे बैठना है ताकि उसका damage ना हो, कितना damage tolerance है, so many things around
Right.
it. And that's why my brain functions. That's how my brain functions basically on a day-to-day basis. Same thing goes for emotional state as well. Because I'm so much driven into these things, I'm constantly questioning it. Why this person is talking like this? Why is this tone different? Why is this person acting like this? Why is the person body language changing? So I'm constantly observing things. एंड आई फेल्ट कि वो जब क्वेश्चन हम करते हैं खुद से ना चीज़ों को, तो बहुत चीज़ें ब्यूटीफुल हो जाती है. मतलब यू डिटैच योरसेल्फ फ्रॉम द सिचुएशन एंड देन यू रिएक्ट एंड रिस्पॉन्ड इन बेटर मैनर. सो दैट इज अ वेरी पावरफुल वे फॉर मी टू फील कॉन्फिडेंट एंड फील द वे आई एम फीलिंग फुलफिल्ड अराउंड माई लाइफ. एंड आई फील कि अगर क्वेश्चन करते रहेंगे हम चीज़ों को खुद के बारे में, so we can reach that state of fulfillment as well, which is a very powerful move as well. So yes, मेरा focus यही होता है that people should start questioning themselves. People should start introspecting about what they are, who they are, why they are thinking in a particular manner. That's why I keep asking a lot of questions.
No, that's very important. And tell me something about you, man. What does Shivam do to befriend his emotions, to become more self-aware? I know, because sometimes the work gets you so consumed that you probably don't get enough time to think about yourself. So what are some of the things that you do that helps you become more self-aware, or have become major?
I think it's the small habits. Right. I think it's the small habits, and I am a very strong creature of habit. That means I like to be. I like to keep myself in a pretty disciplined routine. About this is the time to do this. This is the time to do this. This is the time to do this. So I would be eating at a particular schedule. I would be sleeping at a particular schedule. I would be going for a walk at a particular schedule. I would be playing cricket at a particular schedule. So on a day-to-day basis, I make sure that I walk at adequate enough amount of kilometers so that I feel enough comfortable with the brain and with my body as well. That's one thing I do without a fail. That walking is one of the things that I do without a fail. मतलब वो चीज़ रुकना नहीं चाहिए.
वो तो मैंने आपका देखा है. आप you are like very much consistent in like walking. मतलब after dinner you would have to walk, which is like something that I've been observing for a really long time. जो कि बहुत अच्छी एक habit है, right?
Right.
Tell me about motivation. कहाँ से लाया जाता है motivation? इतना myth है motivation के around, right? Like you can just watch couple of motivation videos on YouTube and you are like, feeling pumped. So what is your take on motivation?
Done.
Because I have a very interesting take, but I would want to know yours. What do you think about motivation?
Right. So I personally believe it's good. अगर आपको वो push मिल रहा है, it's good. It's definitely good. But वो external motivation doesn't always last for long. It's the internal motivation that keeps you going, that gives you that value addition in your life, and that is what keeps you going in that particular. That's the one thing that you mentioned about finding your why as well. So once you know your why, it keeps you motivated, and it pushes you to go ahead and do whatever you want to do with your life. So that is definitely one of the strong ways of understanding कि वो motivation, if it comes from outside, ठीक है, वो push देगा, आपको ज़रूर देगा push. ऐसी बात नहीं कि push नहीं मिलेगा. You can always start doing that thing. But उस चीज़ को drive करने के लिए तो basically वही वाली चीज़ आ गई. आप कार पे कितने लोगों से 10 लोगों से टक्कर डलवा दो, लेकिन फाइनली कार ही चलाना, फ्यूल होना चाहिए कार के अंदर. आप हर वक्त धक्का नहीं डलवा सकते, राइट? तो वहाँ पे द थिंग इज कि जब आप लोगों को पुश करने के लिए बोल रहे हो पीछे से कार, दैट्स फाइन, इज गुड. लोग है हेल्पफुल, लोग करना चाहेंगे पुश, या कुछ भी तरीके से पुश करवा दोगे कार, बट फ्यूल होना चाहिए कार में, तभी ना गाड़ी आगे जाएगी. तो वो फ्यूल इंटरनली आता है बाई अंडरस्टैंडिंग योर वैल्यूज, कि वैल्यूज आपके क्या है. व्हाई आर यू डूइंग दैट पर्टिकुलर टास्क? आई वॉन्ट टू अर्न मनी, बट मुझे पता ही नहीं मुझे पैसे से करना क्या है. आई जस्ट वॉन्ट टू अर्न मनी. मतलब लोग कह रहे हैं पैसा बहुत अच्छी चीज़ है, पैसे की इतनी बात हो रही है आजकल. द होल क्रिएटर थिंग है, क्रिएटर इकोनॉमी एंड फाइनेंसेस, राइट? तो पैसे की राइट तो पैसे की बहुत बात हो रही है, राइट? अब सबको लग रहा है कि हाँ वो पैसे कमा रहा है, वो पैसे का मुझे पैसे कमाना है, बट मुझे पता ही नहीं पैसे कमा के करना क्या है. मैं वही लाइफ जीने वाला हूँ, तो मुझे पैसे का ड्राइव ही नहीं आ रहा है कि पैसे कमा करना क्या है. और मैं चाह रहा हूँ कि मुझे पैसे कमाने, बट मुझे ड्राइव नहीं आ रहा पैसे कमाने का. व्हाट विल आई डू विद द मनी? So that is where the inner conflict happens. So that understanding, why do you want to do a particular task? That's
why is very important, listeners. I think that's what Shivam has been speaking about, and I think that's one of the common theme that that we have been talking about. In order to do anything in life, your why should be very transparently clear, right? That's one thing.
Yes.
So my take on motivation is actually the same. Like the why needs to be there in order to bear anyhow. But I feel how So I tell you like how I used to perceive motivation before versus how I deal
Mm-hmm.
with motivation today, as of today. So how I
Yeah.
used to perceive motivation, so let's say for example, in order to go to a gym, I would need certain kind of motivation. And you must have heard a lot of you know uh, guys saying about this, that you यार जिम जाने के लिए मोटिवेशन नहीं आ रहा है, इसलिए मैं ज्वाइन नहीं कर रहा हूँ अभी मोटिव जिम, ठीक है। तो ये बहुत एक
Right, right,
इम्पॉर्टेंट
right. Mm-hmm.
पॉइंट होता है. But what I felt is like, in order to be motivated, right, you would have to take action. What is actually understood is the other way around, and I think this is James Clear, who has written this book about
Absolutely.
habits, atomic habits. So
Mm-hmm.
he also spoke about the same
Yes.
thing, that motivation works the other way around actually. So you take one action, you feel the momentum, and then you are motivated to do the next step, the next action, right? How most
Yes.
people would think
Right.
is you would need motivation first in order to do any action, while it's the other way
Take
around.
an
You
action.
have to do action, and then that motivation would come
Mm-hmm.
as a as an outcome of momentum.
Absolutely.
So that's like my take. Do you like what's what hmm.
No, no, that's absolutely a very wonderful
Mm-hmm.
point. That's a really wonderful point because that action, no matter how much you think in your head, no matter how much energy you're
Hmm.
consuming in your head, if you do not take the first action, you're never going to walk
Hmm.
towards that path. So yes, the first step definitely matters a lot, and that's a very valid point,
Right,
like you added.
right. Shivam, before we close this, I want you to tell me, what are you reading these days? क्या पढ़ रहे हो?
I am reading a particular book on the body that keeps the score. I
Mm-hmm.
forgot the author's name. It's a bit kind of confusing. The body
Mm-hmm.
that keeps the score, and it's a really
Mm-hmm.
really fascinating book. It talks about the whole impact of what how traumas get stored in your body, in your mind, and
Interesting.
different how it is connected
Mm.
with your body so strongly, and how it comes out
Mm-hmm.
in different forms, in psychology, in emotions, in feelings, in behaviors, and so other things around it. And this is it's again a bit on the
Mm.
technical side, so you might need a bit of basic understanding of
Mm.
psychology and
Mm.
behavior and emotions to
Mm.
understand that better. But if you do that, if you have a better understanding of that thing, I would really suggest that
Interesting,
book.
interesting. And tell me
Yeah.
where people can find you on internet. What are your handles, if you can share your
Shivam,
handles? Shivam
Shivam now
now
everywhere.
everywhere. So Shivam now on Twitter. Are you on Twitter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So Shivam now on Twitter, Shivam now on Instagram, and Shivam now on Facebook. Is that correct?
And Shivam now on YouTube. Yes. And LinkedIn
LinkedIn.
everywhere.
So,
Shivam now.
guys, everywhere, just type Shivam now. Shivam doesn't have a surname, so just type
Yeah.
Shivam now, and you'll find Shivam.
Yes.
And
Yeah. Yeah. And without a space. Shivam now without a space. That's
without
the
a
keyword.
space, चलो डन है. And please यार book पढ़ो शिवम की, बहुत ज़रूरी है. I think it's one of the finest self-help books in India.
Thank you
And
so much.
मैंने पढ़ी है, मेरे को तो मज़ा आया. And I think for somebody who's really trying to understand about their own emotions, about their thought processes, I think both of the books, Finding the Magic in You and How to Unleash Your True Potential, are one of the finest books that you can read in the self-help space. So go and please read
Thank you so
this.
much.
And any closing thoughts, Shivam? एक चीज़ मैं आपको एक्चुअली बताना चाहता हूँ. सो मैं जा रहा हूँ विपासना. ठीक है.
Okay. Wow.
आई रिमेंबर कि हम दोनों ने बात की थी दैट विल गो टुगेदर सम टाइम. सो वेरी
Yes.
इंटरेस्टिंग स्टोरी.
Yes.
मैंने मेरे को एक्चुअली अप्लाई करना था मैक्लॉडगंज वाले के लिए, जो धर्मकोट में है, राइट? हमने देखा हुआ वो. तो
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
वहाँ पे
Huh.
डिमांड बहुत ज़्यादा होती है, एंड द सीट्स आर वेरी लेस. सो
Yes.
आई गॉट इन टच विद समबडी फ्रॉम देयर,
Yes.
एंड दैट गाय टोल्ड मी दैट you'd have to apply in September at a particular date and a particular time slot, and then that the booking would be open. उससे पहले मैं एक्चुअली जयपुर वाले के लिए अप्लाई कर चुका
Yeah.
था. तो जयपुर वाले से आई गॉट द
Okay.
इनविटेशन, एंड आई एम गोइंग नेक्स्ट वीक.
Okay.
बट यार लाइक आई रिमेंबर डिस्कस किया यार,
Wow.
हम दोनों साथ में जाएंगे कभी. तो विल
Yeah.
डेफिनेटली प्लान इफ यू आर स्टिल अप
Right.
फॉर
Right.
इट, if you haven't give
Yes.
up
Yes.
our thought of
Share your
Vipassana
experience.
meditation.
Yes. Share your experiences about
Yeah,
it
yeah,
once you come back.
I'm really looking forward to it. I told some of my
Yeah.
friends that I'm going to Vipassana, and they were like,
Mhm.
scary है यार ये तो बहुत ज़्यादा. Like
स्केरी है, दूर
scary
से तो
दूर से तो
स्केरी
लग रहा है,
डेफिनेटली.
because even I'm new to it. It's not like
हाँ.
something that I've already done it. I've read about
Yes.
it. I've watched videos on YouTube somewhere there,
Yes.
but अभी पता नहीं कैसा होगा. So I'm really open to having that experience, going with that
Yes.
intention that I would want to learn something out of it once I come out from that Vipassana
Yeah.
center. So yeah, I'll definitely
It would be
yeah,
wonderful
I'll
for sure.
definitely share the experience with you. And अगर आपको अच्छा लगा
Sure.
then we'll go together एक बार मैक्लॉडगंज वाले में.
Absolutely, I'm all up for it. बिल्कुल
Cool,
बिल्कुल
Shivam.
बिल्कुल.
Shivam, any parting thoughts?
I think that's a whole aspect about it. That the whole summary of the
Mm-hmm.
whole conversation, the beautiful conversation for that matter, is to keep asking yourself why, keep questioning yourself, and be curious about yourself. That's a very basic essence of it. And once you start to be curious about it, all lot of answers will come through, because हम answers के पीछे इतना भागने लग जाते हैं कि हमें पता ही नहीं होता क्वेश्चन क्या था. And that's something that is very troubling, because हमें लगता है कि ये मुझे आंसर दे देगा, वो मुझे आंसर दे देगा, ये पर्सन मुझे आंसर दे देगा, ये बुक मुझे आंसर दे देगा. बट उस आंसर की खोज में हमें पता ही नहीं था हम खोज क्या रहे थे, हम ढूंढ क्या रहे थे. So but first figure out what do you want and why do you want that thing. Automatically you will get the answer. You'll figure out a way to get the answer, and that can be the most beautiful things to work upon.
ठीक है. सो आई थिंक सवाल पूछते रहो, वो बहुत ज़रूरी है. और अपने
Yes.
आप को
Yes.
जानने की कोशिश करो, ये बहुत ज़रूरी है. एंड ये तभी
बिल्कुल.
आप जान पाओगे जब आप सवाल
बिल्कुल.
पूछते रहोगे. सो फॉलो शिवम्स एडवाइस. फॉलो शिवम ऑन ऑल सोशल हैंडल्स, ट्विटर, Instagram, LinkedIn, on Shivam by Shivam Now. Shivam Now is the handle, and go check out his books on LinkedIn. All right, Shivam, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. It was great conversation with you, and I personally got a lot of insights.
Thank you so much for having me.